every deadly plant in history explained. Picture this. You're at your best friend's Instagram-worthy garden party in sunny California, posing next to these absolutely gorgeous white flowers that look like they belong in a luxury resort brochure. You accidentally brush against one delicate bloom while getting that perfect shot for your story. Within 30 minutes, you're hallucinating that the wedding cake is having a full conversation with you in what sounds like ancient Latin. Your heart is pounding like you just chugged 5 Monster energy drinks while running a marathon, and you're absolutely convinced that your friend's sweet grandmother is actually a time-traveling witch from the 1600s. Congratulations! You just met Datura stramonium, also known as Devil's Trumpet, and it's about to turn your relaxing weekend into a real-life episode of I Survived. Spoiler alert, not everyone actually does survive this particular plant encounter. Look, we all learned in kindergarten not to eat random mushrooms we find in the woods, but apparently nobody prepared us for the fact that Mother Nature is basically running an underground assassination business disguised as a charming garden center. While you're over here obsessively reading ingredient labels like you're studying for the medical college admission test, there are literally thousands of plants just casually chilling in public parks, fancy restaurants, and even your local Whole Foods that could turn you into a true crime podcast episode faster than you can say all natural and organic. Today, we're counting down history's most absolutely unhinged plants that have been quietly plotting humanity's downfall since way before TikTok existed. And I promise you, after hearing these legitimately documented stories, you'll never trust a houseplant again, and you'll probably start Googling every single plant in your neighborhood just to make sure you're not living next to a botanical serial killer. Because, apparently, the real threat to humanity isn't climate change or artificial intelligence. It's that pretty flowering bush your neighbor Karen planted last spring because it looked so aesthetic. Let's start our countdown with something that sounds completely harmless. The castor bean plant, or as I like to call it, Breaking Bad Garden Edition. This thing looks like it belongs in a Pinterest board titled Boho Garden Vibes, with its gorgeous red and green leaves and those decorative seed pods that absolutely scream Instagram-worthy landscaping. But here's the plot twist that would make Walter White himself genuinely jealous. Those innocent-looking beans contain ricin, which is literally one of the most potent biological weapons known to humanity. We're talking about a poison so incredibly deadly that just 0.2 milligrams, which is literally smaller than a single grain of table salt, can kill a full-grown adult human being. To put that in perspective, that'll absolutely blow your mind. That's like if a single Skittle could wipe out everyone attending a Taylor Swift concert. The ancient Egyptians figured this out around 3,000 years before the Common Era and used castor oil for medicinal purposes. But they were smart enough to process out all the murder parts first. Fast forward to September 7, 1978, in London, England, when Bulgarian dissident Georgy Markov was straight-up assassinated with a ricin pellet shot from an umbrella while he was walking across Waterloo Bridge. An umbrella, people. Because apparently, even Cold War assassins had a twisted sense of dramatic irony. But here's the part that'll genuinely keep you awake at night. You can literally buy these plants at any garden center in America right now, today, without any background checks. They're sold as ornamental plants because they look tropical and exotic. It's like Home Depot decided to casually stock biological weapons in aisle 7, right between the fertilizer and the garden gnomes. Moving up our countdown, we have oleander, and this plant is basically the Regina George of the plant world. Absolutely gorgeous on the outside, completely toxic on the inside, and somehow incredibly popular, despite being terrible for everyone around it. You've definitely seen this plant everywhere without even realizing it, because it's literally lining thousands of miles of highways across California, Florida, Texas, and the entire Mediterranean coast. Here's where this gets absolutely bonkers. Every single part of this plant is poisonous. The leaves, the flowers, the stems, the roots, even the smoke if you burn it. We're talking about a plant so aggressively toxic that there are multiple documented cases throughout history of people dying just from roasting marshmallows over oleander wood fires during camping trips. Imagine having to explain that to St. Peter at the pearly gates. Yeah, I died because I really wanted s'mores during a family camping trip, and apparently nature has serious trust issues. The ancient Greeks and Romans knew about oleander's deadly reputation around 400 years before the Common Era, and used it for what we'll diplomatically call political problem solving. But the most absolutely insane part happened in the 1960s. when California's Department of Transportation planted millions of oleander bushes along freeways because they're drought-resistant and look pretty. So now we have thousands of miles of highways literally lined with poison plants. It's like the state government decided to turn every road trip into a potential horror movie. The symptoms read like something Stephen King would write: nausea, vomiting, irregular heartbeat, hallucinations, and eventually cardiac arrest. And here's the kicker: there's no antidote. Once you're poisoned, doctors basically just have to keep you alive and hope your body figures it out. But if you think highway poison is bad, wait until you meet the manchineel tree. This absolute unit of botanical terrorism grows in the Caribbean and Florida, and locals don't call it the tree of mild inconvenience. They call it the tree of death. Straight up, no marketing spin, just death tree. Standing under this tree during rain will cause severe chemical burns on your skin because the rainwater picks up toxins from the leaves. The sap can permanently blind you, and eating the fruit, which looks exactly like a delicious green apple, will cause your mouth and throat to swell shut while you slowly suffocate. Spanish conquistadors in the 1500s used to tie their enemies to manchineel trees as torture, which seems excessive even for people whose approach to diplomacy was murder everyone and take their gold. But here's the bonkers part. These trees grow on some of the most beautiful beaches in the Caribbean. Picture this: you're in paradise. The water is crystal clear, the sand is perfect, and there's this lovely tree providing shade. It's like nature set up the ultimate honey trap. Come, weary traveler, rest under my branches while I slowly dissolve your skin. The Carib Indians used manchineel sap to poison their arrows. When Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon was shot with a manchineel-tipped arrow on July 21st, 1521, he died from the wound. So technically, this tree helped kill the guy who was searching for the fountain of youth. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Just don't use a knife that's touched manchineel sap. Moving into our top tier of botanical horror, we have deadly nightshade, also known as belladonna. And this is basically the original goth plant that wrote the handbook on being dramatically toxic. With a name like deadly nightshade, it's not even pretending to hide its murderous intention. It's the botanical equivalent of a supervillain wearing all black and cackling maniacally. Belladonna contains tropane alkaloids, which are nature's way of saying, surprise, you're about to have the worst psychedelic experience of your life, and also you might die. The symptoms include terrifying hallucinations, complete delirium, violent convulsions, and death. Basically like taking every illegal drug simultaneously, but without any of the fun parts. Throughout history, this plant has been involved in more drama than a reality TV show. Roman wives allegedly used it to poison their husbands because divorce wasn't really an option back then. During the Renaissance, Italian women used diluted belladonna drops in their eyes to make their pupils dilate, which was considered attractive. The name belladonna literally means beautiful woman in Italian. So basically, women were voluntarily poisoning themselves for beauty standards, which honestly isn't that different from modern cosmetic procedures. This plant played a starring role in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Juliet's sleeping potion was likely based on belladonna. And here's a fun fact that'll ruin your childhood. The witch's flying ointment in medieval folklore was probably belladonna-based hallucinogens that made people think they were flying. So basically, the entire concept of witches on broomsticks might just be ancient people getting high off poisonous plants and having the medieval equivalent of a bad acid trip. But the most insane part? Belladonna is still used in modern medicine. Doctors use controlled doses to treat everything from motion sickness to Parkinson's disease. It's like having a serial killer work as a surgeon. Technically effective, but you're always one mistake away from disaster. And finally, we reach the undisputed champion, Cerbera odolum, better known as the suicide tree. If deadly plants were a video game, this would be the final boss that makes you question all your life choices. This tree grows in India and Southeast Asia, and it's responsible for more plant-based deaths than any other species on Earth. We're talking about 3,000 documented deaths in Kerala, India alone over a 10-year period. That's more casualties than some actual wars. The seeds contain cerberin, a cardiac glycoside that's basically nature's perfect murder weapon. It's odorless, tasteless, and causes heart failure that's almost impossible to detect in autopsies. The symptoms perfectly mimic a heart attack, so for decades, these deaths were just written off as natural causes. It wasn't until forensic scientists started specifically looking for cerberin that they realized this tree was running a one-plant genocide operation. The tree's name comes from Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guards hell in Greek mythology, which is honestly the most appropriate naming choice in botanical history. history. And the tree produces beautiful white flowers that smell amazing, and the fruit looks like a mango. It's like nature created the ultimate catfish, attractive outside, deadly inside. But here's the part that'll keep you up at night. This tree is considered sacred in Hindu culture and is commonly planted near temples and homes. So you have families literally living next to what's essentially a biological weapon, treating it like a beloved family pet. So here's where this gets terrifying for our generation. In our age of organic everything and natural is better, we're more likely than ever to encounter these botanical serial killers. We're having anxiety attacks about ingredient lists, while Mother Nature is running a chemical weapons program disguised as landscaping. And with climate change expanding growing ranges, these plants are popping up in new places. Plus, thanks to social media, people are obsessed with exotic, Instagram-worthy plants. We've got influencers promoting natural living while showcasing plants that could turn their followers into statistics. The scariest part? Our brains are wired to trust beautiful, natural things. We see pretty flowers and think, safe, when we should think, potential biological weapon. So the next time someone tells you natural means safe, remember that these plants didn't need laboratories or genetic modification to become lethal. They just woke up and chose violence. While we're spending billions on security systems, the real threat might be that gorgeous bush your neighbor planted because it looked pretty at the nursery. Nature is basically that friend who looks innocent, but definitely has bodies buried somewhere. Stay curious, stay educated, and maybe stick to plastic plants. Because after learning all this, I'm never looking at a garden the same way again, and neither should you.